Hey, it's Andy Willis. I'm the managing broker for our Suwanee office, and I just
Wanted to touch base and talk about the instructions to closing attorney form that's used in our purchase and sale agreements. Fairly simple form, but again, a very important form, of course, because that's how we all get paid, right? So first off, if you take a look at the form itself, the purchase and sale agreement, you're going to list the buyer and the seller on the property. So we might put in a buyer's name, and then we would add the seller in the next field down. And then you've got an offer date that we would input, and then of course the property address itself. So obviously make sure the offer date matches the offer date on the purchase and sale agreement itself. And then as you go through the form, again, like any of these forms, if you read them, they're all fairly self-explanatory. But the first paragraph 1, talks about the commission that the seller's paying. And 99.9% of the time, that's all we're going to see is commission paid by the seller, right? So normally we're going to hopefully see 6% of the purchase price being paid by the seller. You could also put a dollar amount in there if you wanted to on the next line down. That's something you could add. And then in paragraph B, it just basically, or sub-paragraph B there, it just basically talks about how the listing broker who's collecting that 6% agrees to share that with the selling broker. So it's not another 6%, it's not 50%, but it's 3% we're going to put into that field to show that now the total commission coming in the door is 6% in paragraph A there, and then 3% of that 6% is going to the selling broker, and the listing brokers agreeing to that. And again, you could put an amount in there, in a dollar amount in there if you wanted to. Now paragraph 2 there gets a little more confusing sometimes, but if you've completed a agency agreement for a buyer and they agreed, let's say to you had them agree that you would collect a 3% commission on the property that they buy. And in there, it's also going to talk about, in the agency agreement, it's also going to talk about that if the listing commission is only 2.5%, that they agree to pay another 0.5%. I frankly never see that, but that's what the field is for. Again, that's one of those things to discuss with your broker, but you would fill in there that if, let's say that was only 2.5% in paragraph 1 there, you would go back and you had that agreement, you could go in and ask the buyer to pay that other 0.5% in commission by filling out paragraph 2 here. So again, I don't think I've ever seen that. It's something for you to discuss with your broker in more detail, okay? And then the second page is really talking about anything that we need to disclose that might be being paid along with that from the listing broker side or the selling broker side of the commission. This is one of those things that I don't think I've really ever seen anything included in. So I would encourage you to talk to your broker about that even more. But you could see if we were paying a warranty out of a commission, something like that might go in here. If it was being paid for out of the commission, relocation fees, anything like that, just to describe how those are paid. But the key thing in this entire form, if you look down below there, then you'll see steps where you could just explain anything else in detail that you might need to do. And of course you could attach additional pages, and it's a place for the listing broker and the selling broker to sign this. So the key thing is this form describes to the closing attorney who's getting paid what. And you want to make sure this is complete and accurate and there's no questions on it, because the last thing you want to have a discussion over at a closing table with a buyer and seller there is who got shorted $200 or whatever the case may be. So to keep things professional, make sure this thing's completed correctly.